Think back to the last time you felt guilty about something that you were about to do. And I'm actually talking about something small here. Maybe a habit, or even just feeling guilty for something that you were thinking about doing. Not something really obvious or dramatic, not necessarily anything that would hurt anybody, just something that didn't feel right for you. Just a quiet signal that said, this isn't me, this isn't who I really am, it doesn't feel right. And whether you actually did it anyway or not, and whether it's a big thing or a small thing, because we all do it sometimes, we're going to talk about why we would ever ignore that feeling and how learning to listen to that feeling can change your life. This chapter for integrity in the book study is focused on moving into alignment with who you really are, who you want to be, and who you were always meant to be. The goal is to get to know yourself better and find out what you're really made of. And studying the way you respond under pressure of any kind, especially in those smaller everyday situations, strengthens your ability to respond in a way that lines up with the real you in every situation. And that starts with redefining responsibility. Taking responsibility for increasing your ability to respond and becoming more response-able and more confident in making healthy choices. And the reason most of us struggle to be that most responsible version of ourselves is that we've never taken the time to define what that actually means on a personal level. Most of us keep looking into the world around us for answers, looking at other people and the opinions of society in general, asking, what should I do? What do other people do? What's normal? What's not normal? What are other people going to think? And what do they expect? And over time, that starts to blur your ability to see yourself clearly, not trusting yourself enough to know what's right for you and looking to other people to help you define it. Letting other people cross your boundaries, crossing your own boundaries, and judging other people for things that you excuse in yourself, all of that comes from not knowing where to draw the line when it comes to your own choices. It's your personal code that defines the lines you draw for yourself, and that part is on you. No matter how you were raised and no matter what happened to you, you can't blame your parents or your partners or even people that you consider enemies for the choices that you make today. And I know that might sound a little harsh, but it's true. And clearly defining your personal code really is something that you have to do for yourself. We've talked about writing out the standards that you set for yourself before in relationship to doing things that are difficult and taking inspired action. And I'll add a link if you want to go back to that because it definitely applies here. You do want to go back to it, at least in your head, because that code does need to be based on a sense of internal alignment. You're lining up with the part of you that really does know what's best for you. That's how you get stronger. That part of you can overcome any feelings of guilt or weakness or any form of insecurity or any amount of hypocrisy. And it's really the only sustainable method for addressing irresponsible or unhealthy behavior. The energy center for integrity is the solar plexus. It's the powerhouse. It's the center for transformation. And that really is what we're talking about here. The transformation process does start with you, and you want to make sure that you got your head straight about who you want to be if you're working to become that person. Integrity is something that you can actively choose and grow by setting your intentions on doing the next right thing, even when that feels hard to do, and even if it's hard to see sometimes. You find out by stripping away all the masks that you wear, identifying any inauthentic roles that you play, listening to that quiet internal guide because that's the part of you that knows who you really are. Consistently consider the consequences and the impact of your own behavior and taking responsibility for your choices. And that doesn't mean that you have to hate on yourself for all of the mistakes that you've made. That's counterintuitive because you don't want past mistakes to define you, but you can study them to clearly define your code. You're turning a corner here. Courage and integrity mixed together are growing the energy of transformation. You're making a conscious decision to live in agreement with a set of standards. That's where you're going to find the answers to most of life's difficult questions because there is a voice inside you that always knows the next right thing. But so often it's just in there waiting for you to line up with it so that you can hear it more clearly. And whether you listen to it or not is your choice. The meditation for integrity is focused on fostering your ability to respond with the seal of clarity. This is how you learn to listen to the part of you that knows what to do by affirming the oath to do your best to the best of your ability, telling yourself, I am responsible, identifying and purifying your motives, getting clear about the thoughts that you've been thinking, knowing that right thinking leads to right action. And you're connecting with a part of you that already knows. That part of you is already there, living in alignment with what you know is true. And you want to sit with that for a while. Who are you when you're at your best? Not on your worst day, not when you're just randomly reacting to everything that's happening in your immediate experience, but when you are clearly expressing who you really want to be. Feel for that part of yourself because it is there, and it's there even on your worst days. The meditation helps you step back and really feel for how you're living most days. And if most of the hours and most of your days are spent in a state that really isn't reflecting who you are, that is your responsibility. And if whatever's happening in your outer experience gets the blame for your behavior, what does that say about you? There probably is something that needs to be studied more deeply there. The reflection for integrity explores the path to changing your reality. It's the labyrinth of alignment, and the first question to ask is, what would make things right? It's all about seeking clarity, and exploring the difference between your personal perception and objective reality is a good place to start. Identifying the problem, identifying your own patterns of behavior, and exploring and admitting your part in finding a solution. And that shift in perception, just stepping outside of yourself enough to see things as they are and to see yourself as that very best version of you, takes away all the reasons and excuses that we've been talking about. You're making a commitment to an ongoing personal inventory. You start asking yourself, which parts of this problem are clearly my responsibility and which parts belong to someone else? How can I make my part in this right? How can I adjust my thinking and respond in a more positive way? And how do I get right with myself? What are you no longer willing to tolerate from yourself? What's been taking you further away from who you really want to be? And what would bring you closer? Which thoughts are defining not just reality, but who you are and how you're showing up for yourself and all the people in your life? Have you been blaming other people or past events or fear of the future for your thoughts or your feelings or your behavior? That's a lot of questions, but they're all really important to ask, because just like you can't draw lines around what's happening on your worst day, you also don't want to draw them around what happens on your best day either. You can look at those best days to help you remember who you are. This is something that we're learning to apply every day, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult. Because if you don't define them, your brain will default to convenience and comfort and habit. Without a clear internal standard for your own behavior, your focus can drift so easily. Your perception can shift back into that autopilot view, even if you know that that's not serving you anymore. And then you probably will make decisions based on what's easiest in the moment, even if it doesn't line up with your code. But you can practice doing what's right in all the big and small things. Go back to defining your code and refining your alignment with the part of you that knows what to do. Expressing it with the energy of the warrior. Now is the time to fight for what you believe in. Fighting for it with honor. Making a change in your thinking. Changing your behavior. Even in the small things. Following your code. Setting clear boundaries and drawing the line where you need to. And knowing that when that line is crossed, there's something that you can do about it. You can readjust and line up with yourself again. You're allowed to make mistakes, but you do need to be able to admit them. That's the only way you're going to be able to forgive yourself and make a conscious choice to start moving in the right direction. When you ignore that voice inside you that's telling you where to go, you get further away from that version of you that knows what's worth fighting for and what's not. Because the warrior in you isn't a warmonger. It's not looking for a fight. It was made to line up with the energy of its master, and that purest version of you is so powerful. Get clear about your personal code and the boundaries that you set for yourself to reclaim that power. Those are the lines that say, this is what I allow, this is what I don't, this is how I show up, and this is who I am. And when you're clear on that and living in agreement with those internal boundaries, the boundaries you set for other people get easier to see and hold too. You're not just reacting anymore. You're not over-explaining or struggling against what someone else wants from you or thinks of you, because you know who you are. You know when to walk away from it and how to protect yourself from it. That's a really strong position, and it's strong because you believe in it and you trust yourself, and other people can feel that too. There's a very specific kind of strength that comes from that kind of clarity. It's not loud. It's not aggressive. It doesn't have to be right all the time, and it doesn't look for ways to make someone else wrong. It takes away the internal struggle and the never-ending mental negotiation. You don't have to keep asking, is this okay? Because you already know. You've defined it and you're clear. And if you're not clear, sit down and study it. Pay attention to your own thoughts and actions. Remind yourself that fighting for what you believe in doesn't have anything to do with picking a fight with yourself or anyone else. That just turns your warrior into a victim or a bully. Everybody doesn't have to agree with you. You're not looking for problems, you're looking for solutions, and that almost always starts with you and your code. And that's something that no one can take away from you, and something that you can take with you into even the most challenging situations, because it's not dependent on external circumstances. And when that feeling creeps in that says a line has been crossed, you take responsibility for your part on both sides of that line.